We've been exploring some truly complex human stories today, haven't we? As we transition into our final segment, the narrative takes an even more unexpected turn, revealing layers we couldn't have imagined. So, we've talked about the initial perception, the shocking discoveries, and the journey of bringing answers to light. But as we know, in any intricate story, there's often a pivotal moment, a reveal that shifts everything we thought we understood. For Ken and Barbie, as they were famously dubbed, the full story of their shared history was about to be unveiled. The truth, tucked away on some missing videotapes, was finally coming to the surface. May 18, 1995, Toronto. The legal proceedings for Paul Bernardo began, marking one of the most closely watched cases in Canadian history. The public was absolutely captivated. People queued for blocks, eager to witness the proceedings firsthand. Inside, Paul Bernardo, originally from Scarborough, entered a plea of not guilty to a series of serious charges. These included allegations related to the tragic disappearances and eventual findings concerning Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, charges that involved unlawful confinement. His former wife, Karla Homolka, was already serving a sentence for her involvement in these events, having agreed to offer testimony against him. She was serving a 12-year term, a consequence of an earlier plea agreement that was already causing considerable discussion. Now, picture this inside the courtroom. The day began with a significant new development for the prosecution. 6 videotapes, discovered in the couple's residence, were introduced. This footage offered direct insight into the actions of both Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. And, oh my, did it change things? To everyone's astonishment, the tapes painted a vastly different picture from what Karla had previously conveyed. She had, it turned out, significantly understated her involvement to authorities. The videos clearly showed her active and full participation in the distressing incidents. Had this footage surfaced earlier, it might have profoundly altered the trajectory of her widely discussed agreement. These tapes were indeed pivotal, providing undeniable clarity, often referred to as a smoking gun in the legal world. One particular segment of the footage depicted Karla committing severe acts of harm against her own sister. The notion that one sibling could facilitate such profound harm upon another, absent direct coercion, was utterly perplexing and deeply disturbing. It was, as one observer put it, absolutely mind-boggling. During the trial, Bernardo's defense argued that any transgressions committed by him did not escalate to the level of ending a life. They pointed to his past patterns, suggesting that in previous situations, the individuals involved had survived. It was only during his close association with Karla, they contended, that the tragic outcomes occurred. From the outset, and still to this day for some, there was a persistent belief that Paul was not the primary orchestrator of these ultimate harms, but rather that Karla played that decisive role. Then, on June 19, 1995, Karla Homolka herself appeared in court to testify against her former husband. She presented herself as a victim, asserting that Bernardo was the principal architect behind all 3 tragic losses of life. However, during cross-examination, the defense introduced those very videotapes, which unmistakably demonstrated Karla's active involvement in the distressing incidents. She invoked the concept of battered woman syndrome as her explanation, a claim vigorously challenged by Paul's attorney. While not denying that she may have experienced difficulties in the relationship, the attorney argued that her actions didn't align with the characteristics of battered woman syndrome, which typically involves immense psychological distress leading to a diminished capacity for independent action. Instead, the attorney suggested she appeared to be more of a willing participant in the terrible events rather than solely a victim. Paul Bernardo's legal proceedings extended for nearly 4 months. Out of profound consideration for the families involved, and to spare them further anguish, the judge permitted the jury to view the entirety of the sensitive video evidence, while the public was restricted to hearing only the audio. One observer noted a professional interest in viewing the tapes, yet personally felt relieved not to have seen them. The audio, however, offered unsettling insights into Paul Bernardo's methods, echoing patterns observed in other incidents in the Scarborough area. It revealed how he would compel individuals to repeatedly affirm their obedience, emphasizing his dominance. It paints a chilling picture, doesn't it? Following the testimonies of 86 witnesses, the jury, composed of 8 men and 4 women, deliberated for 8 hours before delivering their verdict on September 1st, 1995. 31-year-old Paul Bernardo was found accountable for all 9 charges, including 2 counts of causing the tragic passing of 15-year-old Kristen French and 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey. While the families of both girls found some solace in Paul Bernardo's confinement, their profound grief, understandably, persisted. The legal proceedings had concluded, but their loved ones were not returning. Paul Bernardo received a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 25 years. After his conviction, he also admitted to contributing to the tragic end of Karla's youngest sister, Tammy, and to severe transgressions against 14 other individuals in the Scarborough area. These confessions prompted the judge to classify him as a dangerous offender, a designation that meant he would likely remain in custody for the remainder of his life, without the prospect of parole. Even after the verdict, a considerable debate continued to swirl. Had Karla received an unduly lenient sentence? Many felt she had been treated far too lightly, an opinion widely shared. Some even voiced concerns that her psychological profile might suggest an even deeper capacity for extreme actions than Paul's. It's a complex ethical dilemma, isn't it, when legal agreements are weighed against public perception of justice? Despite Karla Homolka's earlier misrepresentations regarding her involvement in the distressing events, prosecutors chose not to contest the original plea agreement, stating their decision was final. The understanding was that once such an agreement is formalized in Canada, it must be upheld. Karla's plea agreement became a subject of intense scrutiny, widely considered one of the most controversial in Canadian history, with media outlets famously dubbing it the deal with the devil. The contentious discussions surrounding the actions of Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka didn't conclude with the verdicts. The following year, the Ontario court published the findings of a 6-month inquiry into the police's management of the Paul Bernardo case. Their conclusion was that the investigation had been hindered by multiple errors, allowing Paul Bernardo to evade detection simply by relocating between communities. It highlights a critical challenge for law enforcement, doesn't it? In the wake of this inquiry, Canadian authorities introduced a new system, specifically designed to better monitor individuals identified as posing a recurring risk. The aim was to enhance communication and coordination across different police departments, a crucial step towards preventing future tragedies. Then, on July 4, 2005, at 35 years old, Karla Homolka was released from custody, having served her 12-year sentence. While she had completed her full term, many felt that the time served was insufficient given her extensive involvement in the distressing events. One perspective was that she received a lenient outcome and that her responsibility far outweighed the consequences she faced. But with her release, the hope was simply that she would not cause harm to anyone else. Unable to comfortably return to her hometown of St. Catharines, Karla Homolka chose to rebuild her life in French-speaking Montreal. There, she could live largely anonymously, striving for a new beginning. Karla has reportedly shared that she continues to experience disturbing dreams related to the victims and expresses deep regret for her actions. In February 2007, less than 2 years after her release, Karla Homolka gave birth to a son. She faces an undeniably challenging future. Grappling with her past and eventually explaining it to her child presents immense difficulties. With her back in society, the collective hope is that she will live a life free from further transgression. From a legal standpoint, having served her full sentence, she is entitled to navigate her life as best she can, as is the nature of the justice system. The question of whether one would personally wish such an individual as a neighbor, however, often elicits a different, complex response. This story, in all its profound complexity, truly makes you reflect on the nature of accountability, the nuances of justice, and the enduring ripple effects of devastating actions. It reminds us how deeply our systems, and indeed, our collective conscience, can be tested. What are your thoughts on how justice was served in this case, especially concerning the differing sentences and the legal agreements? It's a question that has sparked endless debate, and I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive into Canadian legal history and its ethical dilemmas as fascinating as I did, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into compelling real-life narratives. Thanks for joining me on